So I've got an opportunity right now to do one of these speaking practices because June is asleep and I have a bit of time before I go into the movie theater for a little meeting. Um, I feel like I can maybe record a 15 or 20 minute one of these. And I just feel like just upset and a bit fragile. No, fragile only in the sense that I just feel kind of teary and I don't want to cry on camera. I mean, another thing I could do with this time would be to just not record this video and just go and feel sorry for myself or situation. I didn't get whatever kind of release or peace comes from that. I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm just going to try to get I'm a big believer in crying, and it's very definitely believe in the healthiness of it and productiveness of it. And crying is very productive, and particularly I feel like when it comes to grieving the death or loss of something, or even the loss, grief, it's not necessarily about dying, but losing a person in your life or some obvious end. I mean, sometimes it's just some kind of like heartbreak or loss of some kind of brain pathways or something. But death of a dream. But anyways, I think when it comes to grief, it's actually a somewhat kind of linear. Be a somewhat linear process. And if you kind of chip away at it, just crying, you'll get it done. You'll get it done in the most sort of efficient way rather than just kind of sitting on it for days, months, years. And sort of like paying your taxes. It's going to catch up with you at some point. It's just funny. Crying is like paying your taxes. It's easier if you just do it and get on with it. There we go. That's a tweet right there. Well, I'm tempted to just log off right now and write that. But yeah, this week I had a meeting with the accountant for our landlord, the landlord for the movie theater. The financial fortunes of the movie theater have kind of very odd this past two years now, since the advent of the pandemic. Things were going well. Things were going well and good before the pandemic hit. Worked very hard to kind of build up the business that, was profitable and, give me a nice sort of middle class income. And through just grinding through doing all kinds of work and then working on some projects of delegation and kind of cutting back on my own shifts at the screening room in light of having a baby, I reached a point where maybe I felt like too, like in the very, like I was a good, like little mini capitalist, little mini business owner who maybe, could draw what would feel like a comfortable kind of full-time middle-class income while actually being able to work less than 40 hours a week and having some, freedom that comes with that, including just being able to, raise a family and have some kind of intellectual freedom. But I mean, aside, obviously, I have not exercised what maybe is by the intellectual freedom I could have. Hence this whole speaking practice project and me twittering online. I do just feel very, but like, just in a local social context, just like very petrified of speaking in my mind on various things. This is very vague. Various things. What is this? What are these things that I'm censoring myself from saying? I can only talk about it in this very kind of vague way. I can get more specific about it at another point. But anyways, back to the financial situation of the screening room. Obviously, when the pandemic hit, it's like, oh, this isn't good. People aren't going to want to go to the movie theater. Just like how much and how bad is this impact going to be? Going from overnight, like a money-making thing to a money-hemorrhaging thing. And after a few, just, that sucked. I was there for a few months, but I felt like a certain kind of, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe how I thought about it at the time. I went crazy. Continuing on. After a number of months, actually, the government grant subsidy situation really, a lot of stuff happened. And there's just been so many different grants and subsidies over the past year and a half. Like, it really started in October with the wage and actually there's the wage. When did the rent subsidy come? Then there was the rent subsidy, and then there's just been all this other money, some nice lump sum payments from Telefilm and via Canadian Heritage and other little programs here and there that you get, $5,000 here, $10,000 there. And actually, living on the dole for the past 2 years, I was basically kind of this not-for-profit organization. I've still been able to draw comfortable middle-class income. I kind of feel if maybe some Canadians knew. I just often feel kind of guilty about it. I'm like, oh, if people knew, like, how, like, the extent to which we're being propped up. A lot of it is just I have taken every single opportunity, and I've been on the hunt for just every single opportunity, applying for everything. And there's, in terms of calculations, it's all of it has worked very much in our favor compared to, say, what another movie theater or another business would experience. So all through this, I've still been able to draw middle class income, and it hasn't, at the end of the day, I'm like, this actually has not felt like the great financial sacrifice that it could have been. Property values have gone way up. Steve and I have some property, more than one property. So it's, all in all, like, our net worth, it's just like, it's very, I'm quite happy financially net worth. It's not like personally we have any money problems. We have definitely time and attention problem, and both, I feel, kind of run ourselves ragged at times and not able to work on kind of a relationship, and not really able to talk about much of anything other than just some basic coordination stuff. But anyways, we're building a very nice home. We'll renovate a very nice home, and a few months we'll be living there full time, and it's going to just be feel very good about our new home. And I've overcome my anxieties about becoming socially disconnected just by living a little bit more out in the country, and it's that's all good. Fortunate, like, overall, financially and stuff, there's sort of this good fortune. But back to the screening room. It's been 2 years where it has not been a real business. It's just been on the dole. It's not profitable. I felt a sense of pride at being able to build something that was successful as a business, and now it's sort of being propped up. All the dole propping up subsidy money is going to run out in May, or trickle out in May. And we still have, and then there's more coming, and then there's money in the bank. There's no imminent problem. I'm concerned that a number of our costs have gone up. Definitely pay more in terms of payroll and everything that we did before. We don't have the volunteer program anymore. Costs have gone up. And this still seems reasonable and proportional. I don't know, though, if at the end of the day, I'm still worried that at the end of the day it's not going to make a full recovery. Anyways, there's more to the story than this. Back to meeting with my landlord. In August of 2020, so a few months into the pandemic, my landlord realized that they had, after the big renovation of their new lease arrangement, they had been undercharging me for rent, that the amount they had told me to cut as rent check was not covering my new proportion of the building's operating costs. Because really, when you're paying commercial rent, at least the way things work in the city, half of what you pay is the rent for square footage, and the other half is your share of everything it costs for that building to exist and be managed by the landlord. So, like the property taxes, we say pay a portion of the property taxes to the government, and the utilities and the cleaning for the building, and other operating costs that often do not get fully broken out or explained. Anyways, I think they were undercharging me by about what works. Oh God, the amount that they're like, they would undercharge me by maybe about $3,000 a month. And my rent check that I had been paying after the renovation was still double what it had been. So I thought it seemed actually a little bit low but at the same time I'm like, it's still double than what we're paying before for double the amount of space. Anyways, so it turns out that, for 2018, 19, 20, we owe them for each year about close to $40,000 a year in operating expenses for the building. And that's because the operating expenses for the building went way up as well. The property taxes went up because the building became more valuable in light of the renovation and all of the work that the landlord put into it. So we were paying more to the city for what is, I think, like more successful building and theater that's better for the downtown. Anyways, so the shock of this then was also to realize, on top of like, oh, I no longer have a business that can make money. I, retroactively in terms of 2018-19, what I thought was like this level of success was actually this level of success. There's actually an extra $40,000 in expenses that I was not aware of and not accounting for. So whatever sense of pride and accomplishment I felt 2018-19 after the renovation, I can retroactively downgrade it. And so actually in terms of probably profitability of the theater is less. It actually works out to them being a little bit less than what I made, say, the year before we did the renovation project. Now it's a better theater. I don't have to put in quite as many hours through just in terms of changes in terms of staffing and who does what, and this is an ongoing process of management. But what I thought had been this sort of steady, linear, at least in terms of the business lens, And so the whole theater, at least in financial terms, is not as valuable as thought it was, or dollar value does not reflect, I think, the extent to which people value it. And I guess maybe it will continue to be, I don't know. Maybe there's just this basic level that it will just continue to coast as. But anyways, I feel a lot of like martyr. I don't feel like a victim. I feel like a martyr in terms of I worked so hard to create something of value to others, and I thought a reasonably proportionate amount of value for myself. I'm like, oh, probably my financial standing would be maybe, well, at least the same, if not better, if I had just continued working at the library, doing work that I don't think was as meaningful to the world or valuable to the world as, what the movie theater is now. And so I can just feel bitter and, I don't know. And right now, because it's not a profitable business, part of it is sometimes I just want to get out. I wish I could just sell it and get out. But at the same time, I'm just so invested in it. And I couldn't sell it now because it's not a profitable business. It needs to become a profitable business before I could even sell it. But then if I make it a profitable business again, then it's going to be looking at the money and be like, oh, this is a good deal. You know, I get to full-time income, working part-time, but still, if I make it successful, then there's this incentive to sell it or something, or it'd be harder to sell it. But I mean, whatever it is, it just seems like the situation is just, I just have to work on making it better. And like, that's really my only reasonable option. And although when I get immersed in the projects of marketing our movies better and maybe getting an alcohol license or doing other things to increase our income, and I also have all these ideas about maybe even just sort of selling sponsorships for the movies and allowing people to pay to sponsor particular films that maybe they feel passionate about. You know, there's ideas to bring in more income. And when I think about those, if I actually focus on those concrete projects, I'm like, oh, this is an interesting idea. Let's try this. And wouldn't that be neat to do? I think I might be right in this idea, so let's do it. And so, and also too, the quality of my ideas, I've reached a point where it's like, actually, I think the quality of my ideas about how to improve the things for the cinema are like the best. I have probably a better idea than anyone else, I think, in terms of having it be this sort of healthy, vital business. And so it's like, oh, I'm the one to do it. And plus I guess I get off on having good ideas about things, and it's good to have some practical arena for practicing your ideas. But I'm always just tempted, like, what if I could just become like a writer and an opinion haver and, yeah, professional opinion haver. I am, though. When you own your own business, there's a way to be a professional opinion haver, but you're just very constrained in the things that you get to have opinions about and put to work. Anyways, I feel trapped, but at the same time, it's not a bad cage. I feel guilty for good fortune on one hand financially. I feel very discouraged about the overall just sort of decline in fortune on the other. In terms of this business not being sellable or anything that I can escape. The interesting, actually, I mean, there's always the idea that I could sell it for like nothing or sell it to the city or whatever if I really wanted to get out, but yeah, that's really what I wanted to do. I'm confident we'll always continue to operate because people value it, but it's just, how do you collect? I mean, a lot of it is maybe just how does one generate income proportionate to the extent to which it is valued and it is creating value. And our ticket prices, what we're able to charge for tickets doesn't reflect that. And so, yeah, I always have thoughts too about ways to engage the city of Kink. Somehow do something with the city and get money from the city. Yeah. Or just somehow just get paid, you know. Keep living on the dole. I don't know. It's not really the dole if the money is proportionate to the value that you are generating. What's so bad about the dole? I don't know. Well, maybe it's good to be confused and for things to be a mess, and the longer I can kind of sustain things, I guess, be confused and kind of hold the contradictions of this, that eventually the more holistic path or solution will emerge. I am genuinely ambivalent, as my friend Lucy said, and there's something to be said for maybe just continuing to kind of feel at war with this, sometimes inside, or just being able to enter those states where I'm like, I'm done, I'm out, and then get back into it and be like, I'm in this, and this is fine. So maybe just being able to oscillate between those things is actually a good thing somehow. Yeah. Anyways, here we go. I'd like to write about all of this, as I do feel like in terms of my whole self-expression project, this is something that I would love to write on Twitter about. Write a little something about for my kind of safe audience there, rather than what feels like my dangerous audience and sort of the local Kingston context. Anyways, just synthesis. There will be some kind of synthesis or integration if I actually can write and express this, and even somehow even write or express some of this to the moviegoers and the community, but do it in some way that isn't overly manipulative, just honest. Okay, long enough.